right now on 5 on Your Side at 10.
Starting the Trump transition, the Biden administration invites the president-elect to the Oval Office as the former president pieces together his new administration. Demolition in progress at the old ICE warehouse in North St. Louis. Why the off-Broadway building needed to start coming down today. But first.
Well, it's been raining for most of the day, off and on in some regard. Most of these totals have been light. We'll update you on some of the recent flooding concerns in some of our rivers and look ahead to a big change for Sunday.
We begin with breaking news in West St. Louis County. A fatal crash has shut down all eastbound lanes of Interstate 64 at Timberlake Manor Parkway. Missouri Highway Patrol tells 5 on Your Side it involves a wrong-way driver, a commercial motor vehicle, and 3 other vehicles. Now, the accident happened about 90 minutes ago. We know at least one person has died. Stay with 5 on Your Side for updates as they develop. Good evening, everyone. I'm Robert Townsend. A rainy weekend has now started to shake off just as that area of flooding was coming to an end. Meteorologist Gary Frank is here now joining us with a first look at your forecast.
As we continue to see some rain finally exit, roads still remain wet. You can see this camera here in Chesterfield is on the wet side, of course, pointing out part of where that accident is. But for the most part, we still see rain mainly in the Metro East. That's what we've dealt with through a good majority of the day here as we look at, for the most part, some rain that's working its way. And the bulk of it is working its way into the Metro East from Alton, Staunton, Hamel, Troy. Depends on where you look, Belleville as well. What is lacking is that significant rain. The moderate rainfall that we've seen throughout most of the area has finally worked its way out. And that's what we're going to look at right now. From Belleville, you'll still see a little light to moderate rain from Mascoutah and also Waterloo as well. Otherwise, things are starting to settle down just a little bit, and that's what we're looking forward to for the next several hours. As we look at some of our 12-hour rainfall totals, nothing significant, but most of it is a half an inch or less. We did get up to 2/3 of an inch or so in St. Louis, but for Chesterfield, you're looking at about a half an inch so far. As we look ahead, though, for the most part into the rest of this evening, temperatures in the mid-50s. I do expect that we'll see cooler conditions with a few slight chances for rain here and there. But moving forward, that's what we're expecting. We'll talk about what's expected for Sunday before things change down the rest of the next several days.
The demolition of a centuries-old ICE warehouse was in full force today, weeks after a massive fire erupted inside. New tonight, Andy Kroll explains how the destruction left along North Broadway plays into more potential fire hazards in the city's future.
This is what's left of the old Federal Cold Storage Company, a shell of the 20th century structure near the Stan Musial Bridge, which was closed for 2 days after the October 14th flames. Officials telling 5 on Your Side the vacant warehouse was known to have homeless people, and the building had numerous fires just in the last 6 months. This towering pile of singed brick and concrete now being demolished was a fortress of frozen food for decades. It was considered to be state-of-the-art architecture when it was built in 1922. Captain Garen Mosby told us this weekend that demolition started shortly after the fire, but leveling where food was kept cold through steaming St. Louis summer months during the Great Depression has ramped up. Captain Mosby talked to us on the scene of another fire in October, discussing how vacant buildings across the city can become a tinderbox as winter rolls around.
What we traditionally see here is as the temperatures drop, our fires increase. And a lot of those fires, most of those fires are in vacant buildings, and we get it, right? People are gonna do what they have to do to stay warm. This is kind of a transitional period where, a lot of folks are moving in, if you will, into vacant properties. So it's just one of the challenges that we face in the firefighting community.
Adam Kuhn, the building owner, telling us the day after the fire, the damage would cost him about $650,000.
Truthfully, this is a case study for the city. Everything that happened down here is happening to the entire city of St. Louis. This is a little tiny microcosm of what is happening all around here.
Andy Kroll, 5 on Your Side.
Tonight, the building's owner tells Andy it will take 3 weeks to knock the building down and about another month to clean up that debris. Now, we've reached out to the St. Louis Building Division and National Register of Historic Places about what comes next for that warehouse. At this time, we have not heard back. Tonight, St. Louis police are investigating a death inside the City Justice Center. Investigators say a man was found unconscious and given medical treatment before dying this morning. Now, they also say there are no signs of trauma, and it appears the detainee suffered a medical emergency. The inmate's name has not been released. This is the second death at the City Justice Center this year. New tonight, a St. Louis police officer is recovering after he was hit by a suspected drunk driver overnight. Police say around 1 this morning, the officer was investigating an abandoned car on Interstate 70 near Broadway. Now, as he re-entered his patrol car, he was hit by the suspected driver. Police arrested the driver for DUI and driving with a revoked license. The officer was taken to the hospital, but is expected to be okay. Tonight, the Florissant Fire Department is mourning the loss of one of their own. Firefighter and paramedic Timothy Clancy suddenly passed away Thursday at his home. The 60-year-old worker, he had been at that department for 24 years. He previously served the St. Louis Fire Department and City EMS. Clancy's visitation will be on November 12th at Hutchins Funeral Home in Florissant. The veteran firefighter is survived by his wife, 6 kids, and 3 grandchildren. President-elect Donald Trump accepted President Biden's invitation to the Oval Office for a meeting next week. The visit is a symbolic moment in the transition of power from one president to the next, a moment that Trump notably skipped, you'll remember, back in 2020. NBC's Aaron Gilchrist has more.
Tonight, America's transition of power begins. The White House announcing an Oval Office meeting between President Biden and President-elect Trump.
I'm going to see him on Wednesday.
Biden following through on his promise earlier this week.
On January 20th, we'll have a peaceful transfer of power here in America.
Trump and Biden spoke by phone on Wednesday, the president-elect describing the call to NBC's Kristen Welker as very respectful both ways. The invitation a return to tradition that Trump bucked, never inviting Biden to the White House after he won the 2020 election. Trump only agreeing to an orderly and peaceful transfer of power back then after a violent mob of his supporters stormed the Capitol on January 6th. In 2016, then President Obama sat with Trump in the Oval Office, extending an olive branch after Hillary Clinton's defeat.
We now are going to want to do everything we can to help you succeed, because if you succeed, then the country succeeds.
That meeting following decades of precedent. Bush to Obama, Clinton to Bush, Bush to Clinton, Reagan to Bush, and Carter to Reagan.
This was, I believe, the greatest political movement of all time.
Meanwhile, Trump is working out of his Mar-a-Lago home in Florida, focusing on building his new administration. The president-elect already choosing his campaign manager, Susie Wiles, as his new White House chief of staff, the first woman to ever serve in that role. Trump also favoring cabinet candidates who come from outside Washington and have business experience over members of Congress. That's according to 2 sources familiar with the process.
A coming full circle moment.
I actually grew up in one of the sites that we have, Matthews Dickey. I was there from 6 years old all the way to 13.
What the new president of the Boys and Girls Club of St. Louis hopes to accomplish. Helping a neighbor in need. How 2 local groups have given a local woman a chance to get outside once again.
As we look at our visible satellite infrared throughout the last 24 hours, you'll notice the snow cover in the mountains. And of course, we're on the warm side of it, but it's meant rain all day. What the backside of this means for us the next 24 hours and an update on our flooding.
Tonight, the Boys and Girls Club of Greater St. Louis has a new leader. Brandon Williams is taking the helm of the organization as its new president and CEO. The former Rams wide receiver and St. Louis native says Boys and Girls Club helped shape him when he was a young child. Williams says he wanted to focus on the youth and give them the resources they needed to thrive.
It's really about engaging our youth, right, and creating fun, safe, healthy environments where they can thrive, where they can be their best, where they can lean into integrity, character, ethics, be good citizens, and really show that potential, because we believe every child has success in them.
It's nice to see the St. Louis native giving back. Now Williams will take over that role on January 1st. Today, volunteers spent their Saturday helping a woman in need. Catherine Love of St. John suffered a stroke back in 2016, and both her husband and daughter passed away. Now, Love had been confined to her bed ever since. Thanks to a collaboration between Rebuilding Together St. Louis and Ameren, they are building a ramp to help her get outside.
Ramps, stairs, grab bars, safety features, fire prevention, fall prevention. There's so many things out here that just the average homeowner needs, and it's impossible for them to get the help for it. So that's where we play a part. It's extremely critical, and the reason for that is there's just not a whole lot of funding out there. We're able to get funding through a lot of corporate donations like Ameren, for instance, state, local, and federal grants.
The project took a load off Love's pocketbook, giving her a ramp that would normally cost her $10,000 to $14,000 and fixing a set of stairs at the back of her house. Extremely nice project right there.
As we continue to track rain on the exit out of our area, it was a wet day. We'll talk about how much your area has received and when this rain finally exits ahead.
It means all the men and the women in my family that have served.
As a veteran, as a Latina, we are here representing all of our community.
Doing this even in the rain, it's a big deal.
The rain held off just enough this morning for the 41st annual Veterans Day Parade in downtown St. Louis. Now the parade honors those who served our country. It traveled along Market Street to the Soldiers Memorial Museum, where a wreath-laying ceremony took place.
You know, a lot of the veterans are in the parade. It's an excellent opportunity for them to show the community the pride that they have in their service, but then, you know, in reversing that, the community along the streets showing their support for Veterans Day and for veterans it's just unique. It's a special opportunity.
The Veterans Day Parade in St. Louis dates back to celebrations held on November 11th, 1918, marking the end of World War I. For a full list of Veterans Day events and discounts right near you, text the word veterans to 314-425-5355 and we will send you the links.
You've got to start somewhere. So I started as a one-man band reporter.
Tonight, a special honor for a member of the 5 on Your Side newsroom. The National Association of Black Journalists of St. Louis presented our Kelly Jackson with their Living Legends Award. The honor recognizes trailblazers in local journalism. Other honorees we saw tonight included retired veteran anchor Julius Hunter, who started his career at Channel 5 back in 1970, and the St. Louis American's own Alvin Reed. Congratulations, Kelly. Well, today was an all-day rain event in the St. Louis area. Meteorologist Gary Frank is back to tell us when we can finally dry out, huh, Gary?
Yeah, as over the next several hours, we're still looking at this rain that continues. And, you know, for the most part, it's still, at the very least, drizzling. You can see, just looking at the arch, how low the cloud deck is here as the wind picked up out of the southeast. Now, temperatures still settling in right now, 58 degrees. We've kind of teeter-tottered back and forth between 55 and 58, depending on where it's raining or if it's been raining. And you see the dew point at 55, pretty fully saturated for us. And that's why it's been kind of off and on drizzle here and there. Now, as far as what's going on right now, our 24-hour rainfall totals since midnight, really since about 8 o'clock, it really started to pick up, but there was some rain late last night as well. 2/3 of an inch officially in St. Louis, about 1/2 an inch in Chesterfield and many other spots around there. You'll still see from Belleville, Rolla, it was about 1/4 of an inch to about 1/2 an inch at most. Now, looking at these areas, you'll look where the colder air is behind it. We've got the warmer air in the south breeze, and then you'll see this southwesterly breeze that we see probably tomorrow in between that. That's where things are drying out, but right now, this is the dry portion of this. This is what is fueling this upper level low, and then behind it, it is cold. We're on the leading edge of that, where the bulk of our rain has come and gone. Now, zooming in locally, like I mentioned, most of it is in the Metro East. You can see that from Belleville to Staunton, Litchfield. Most of those yellows are out of here. That indicates about 1/4 of an inch per hour rainfall rates, even though this stuff is moving a lot faster. And then even as we zoom into a few of these spots right now, Bethalto, Bunker Hill, Edwardsville, Granite City, most of this here from Bridgeton, the airport, and Creve Coeur and Chesterfield, we show some areas with drizzle. That's about it right now. It's not going to amount to much, but you can still see that here. The next several hours, most of that pushes out of here, out of our entire area by about 1 or 2 o'clock. Maybe we'll have a little fog that kind of hangs around, but I do think we'll start to see our wind clear things out. Tomorrow morning, it will be in the mid-50s and upper 40s and low 50s as well on the Missouri side. we're starting to clear out just a little bit, but the rain does end. Our wind will pick up tomorrow. That will be responsible for us warming up as well. We'll start to see those winds gusting upwards of 30 miles an hour, in some cases mid to upper 60s. It's sunny, it's warm, it's drying us out. But in terms of the river levels, that rain didn't do much for us. Even at Valley Park, you'll see that major flood stage. But look, as we head toward tomorrow, we're going to start to see that number go down. That means some of those roads that were closed will start to be open just in time for you getting back to school and work to start off the week. Temps in the 60s here, low 60s on Tuesday. It's going to be a pretty quiet week ahead, but other than that, no one really cares what I have to say. We're just talking about Michaela's going to show us the important stuff. Unless something happened over the last 3 minutes that I'm extra mad about.
Now, let me tell you this. You all are going to be at the edge of your seats. Well, coming up in sports, the Mizzou Tigers renewed one of their oldest rivalries, and we're going to catch all of that high-class action here in a few moments.
This 5 on Your Side Sports Report is sponsored by Telly Tire and Auto Centers, driving your way since 1942.
I'm sure many of you are just as amazed as I am right now. This was the one Mizzou fans have been waiting for. Missouri and Oklahoma revived an old-time rivalry stretching all the way back to 1902, their first meeting since 2011, and their first time as SEC opponents. The Tigers took the field without their QB1 Brady Cook due to injury. Drew Payne getting a chance to prove himself tonight. Mizzou's defense made all the difference early in the game. OU's Jackson Arnold had absolutely nowhere to turn, and that pressure continued. Chuck Hicks coming up big with a sack. Missouri got their first points of the game from Blake Craig on this field goal right here. And as a matter of fact, every point in the first half for both teams came from field goals. Well, that wasn't too much fun, but it got interesting, folks. Fourth quarter, we finally see some real action. Pine surveys the field, lets it go, and Ben Nerfleet makes the catch. Touchdown, Tigers. Mizzou took the lead with under 1 minute to go, and they pull it out. Your Tigers make an epic win, 30-23 over Oklahoma. Let's check out SEMO at Lindenwood earlier today. Lions down 3. Nate Glantz in some trouble with the folding pocket, but he finds Jeff Caldwell for the first down.
How far can he go? Inside the 30, still on his...
Third quarter, excellent read by Glantz. He'll take it all the way, and the Lions go on to win against the first top 10 team in the FCC level ever for Lindenwood. They get that win 24-12. But bad news for the Blues. It was an absolute brutal game to watch against the Washington Capitals. Turnovers at the blue line turned to pucks in the back of the net, and a lot of them. Jordan Bennington did make some big saves early. Capitals Nick Dowd with the shot blocked by Bennington's shoulder. Connor McMichael attacks with speed, and just like that, Caps up one. Blues looking to respond. Puck to Matthew Kessel. Great pass in front, and Scott Perunovich gets his first NHL goal and the only goal for the Blues tonight. For the Capitals, Alex Ovechkin ready and available. 2 goals for him. A frustrated Blues team loses 8-1. We hear from Drew Bannister.
In the last 2 weeks, we've had 2 games where it's just unacceptable the way we're playing in those situations and finding ways to stop the bleeding, really. And then we bounced back with some good efforts, but we haven't been able to sustain it.
Let's pivot to high school football. Cahokia at Waterloo for the IHSA Class 4 second-round playoff game. A cold and rainy day for all. Bulldogs QB Conrad Lindhorst. Oh, forgive me. We're looking at the fly. Oh, wait, no, we're right. They scored all 3 touchdowns here, his team, but that just wasn't enough. They sealed the deal. Fourth quarter performance. Cahokia 40, Waterloo 20. Class 6, the East St. Louis Flyers with a shutout against Normal West. Wildcats QB throws up a lofty pass. Flyers, Makai Mixon gets an easy pick and takes it down the field for 37 yards. Kendrick Lyons, no pressure, sees a gap and drives it in for 6. This play will get you hyped. Lyons, handoff to Amir Tillman. He moves and he grooves and he jabs, and he does his thing all the way down the gridiron. Touchdown East St. Louis. They win 48-0.
I'm just hyped that Mizzou won.
I mean, I think that we are all very surprised by the ending of that game.
Very surprised that they got to win.
That's all our time for 5 on Your Side at 10. Saturday Night Live is coming your way next.